most important thing for what I'm doing, actually, in my own feeling, is a kind of sense of truth, and especially scientific truth, not faith especially, but truth based on evidence, that there are things that can be done that can make a huge difference in people's lives, and that it's foolish of us not to do those good things. That's my main view of life, that we ought to solve problems when we can, and that there are many solvable problems, and that it's a kind of frivolousness of our lives and of our society, driven by many things which I'm still trying to figure out why exactly we are so frivolous in some ways. But it is the idea that there are things that can be done. And it just drove me crazy to come to understand that malaria could be significantly controlled by insecticide-treated bed nets, and yet they weren't getting out to people. It drove me a bit crazy to understand that antiretroviral medicines were available and effective, but millions of Africans were dying without the slightest chance of getting access to them. It drove me crazy to learn that tens of millions of women in Africa would go out each day in backbreaking labor on the farm trying to grow a crop to feed their families, but because there wasn't sufficient nitrogen in the soil, no matter how hard they toiled, no matter how backbreaking the effort, from a biophysical point of view, they couldn't do it, and yet a bag of fertilizer would change the reality for them. So these are the kinds of things that keep me going. The idea that not only that AIDS is terrible, or that malaria is a scourge, or that hunger is awful, I'm not sure that those grim realities by themselves are the essence of how I've approached life and problem solving. What for me has been critical is not the scourge so much as the access to solutions. And then where I've tried to work is to get those solutions into place. And that's the problem solving part. If I see that fertilizer could feed Africa, but it's not being used, I'm pretty stubborn and will keep at it for a long time. And there's a lot of inertia, there's a lot of ignorance, there's a lot of cynicism, there are a lot of open technical questions. There's a lot that needs to be done, and global cooperation is a very hard thing. And issues of disease and poverty are not exactly at the top of our daily fare in public discussions or politics in our own country, in the United States. So yes, there's a lot of frustration, but I don't have the sense of futility. I just have the sense of frustration. Those are different things. Futility would be, God, I don't see any solution. There's nothing practical to do. It's just tragic. It's awful. It's inevitable. We're going over the cliff. I don't feel that at all. I feel, in fact, something almost completely different. How absurd that such an easy solution is in front of us, and we can't get mobilized to do it. And so it's not a sense of futility. It is, come on, ladies and gentlemen, let's get those bed nets out there. Let's figure out how to get the fertilizer in the ground. Let's help people get the medicines that can keep them alive. And that's what keeps me going. And that's why I started by saying that it's the sense of the truth, in this sense of pragmatic, practical, science-based truth, that is the starting point for me for the next steps.